Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Pixelists podcast, the podcast about all the nerdy things we love and enjoy. As always, we're your hosts. I'm Will. That's Blake over there to my left. Yep, nailed it. And today we're here to talk about some worlds beyond number. The Wizard, the Witch, the Wild One. Ooh. Episode 11, to be exact. It's kind of crazy. I mean, I was about to say something just to say it, but now I'm wrestling if I truly believe it or not. I was going to say it's crazy that we're 11 deep, but if I think about it, not really, since they're released every 2 weeks. But I don't know. Yeah. Good intro from me here today with that thought.
Yeah, it is 11 episodes deep. And honestly, it's getting pretty crazy too. I'm like, dude, this thing's kind of winding up a little bit.
Bro,
and I'm kind of wondering where the Grandmaster Brennan Lee Mulligan is going to take it.
Me too. This the emotions were running very high in the cliffhanger of this episode, especially throughout the whole episode, honestly. But they've been pretty good about these enticing cliffhangers each week.
I am always. Did you see the new Brennan Lee Mulligan? Brennan Lee Mulligan, the Dimension 20 adventure?
Yeah. Metropolis or something? Yeah. Something like that. With
leave it to me to bring something up and then not know what it's actually called. It looks really cool though.
Yeah, with Hank Green is in it. So that's really cool. It's another side quest, I believe. Is that the terminology?
I think so, yeah.
Because it's another shorter one, I think.
Yeah.
Which... Excuse me, I had to cough. Those of you know by now that we're kind of Dimension 20 amateurs, but I was for some reason under the impression that it went like side quest, main adventure, side quest, main adventure.
Yeah,
but now we've had like three side quests in a row.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that's atypical or
for our listeners, I'm starting up a new D&D group, and one of the guys.
Are you doing it with that guy?
Yeah.
Bro, how dare you start another D&D campaign without me? Listen, y'all, let him have it in the comments. We're going to bring this up in Critical Role video where we have more people.
This is very much a Brennan Lee Mulligan themed. Get in the comments. But I told Will this over the phone, but one of the guys who's never played before, he's watched he's trying to learn more about D&D. And so I was like, oh, what have you been doing? He's like, I've been watching this thing called Dimension 20. And it turns out that Brennan Lee Mulligan, so he's from LA, and Brennan Lee Mulligan apparently, I guess at like the improv school he went to or something, like Brennan's either like a guest or like one of the main people or something, but is like the master of improv. And I was like, I just want you to know it's not going to be like that. So
lower your expectations
deeply and then lower them further. So yeah, man, it's just a casual thing. Don't get jelly,
Yeah, we'll see.
I mean, sure, my wife's playing, and so are a bunch of other people, and
it's cool. I'm just gonna start a campaign without you, and then
you should wind it up, dude. Invite me. Can always do more D&D in my life.
We'll see. But yeah, so that's exciting. The Metropolis. I don't know when it starts. There's some weirdness going on with the or not weirdness, but with the Screen Actors Guild strike.
Yes.
I know that I don't want to get into the nuts and bolts of this because I don't.
Mentopolis is the name.
Okay.
By the way.
I know that Sam Reich, I believe, is his name. The owner and the guy that hosts Game Changer and stuff. I don't know. Again, I don't know the details, so I don't want to get into it and misquote or anything. But I know that, like, of course, they are standing with the Screen Actors Guild, and so I don't know if they technically would have. I don't know if things like Dimension 20 necessarily fall under what's being protested right now, but I do know that regardless, he is treating it as if it is. So that's why
I think they said it does fall under, but that they had already recorded Mentopolis.
Right. Okay.
I think
that checks out, because I know I similarly saw Hank Green actually tweet something's going to be announced that I'm in that I'm really excited about, but don't think it's weird if I'm not promoting it because I can't.
Yeah. So I think Dimension 20 falls under it. Meanwhile, Critical Role does not fall under it, though they stand with the writers, of course. So,
no, I don't even remember why I feel like I was building to a point there, but I don't know what it was now, so I'm just going to move on.
If there was ever a soundbite for our podcast, that's it. Loki season 2 trailer.
Yeah, did you watch it yet?
I did.
I did too, man.
I guess that would have been good content for us to watch for the first time. We're very good at having a YouTube channel.
Yes.
We are very good at it. Yeah, I'm excited for that. For those of you guys out of the loop, maybe you don't watch Disney Plus kind of stuff, but Loki is a show. Season 2 just got announced. The trailer just came out today, but I think this was the first thing you and I did on the channel.
It was. Yeah.
Yeah. So Loki was our first Pixelist collab, and yeah, so it's kind of cool. The second season's coming out.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. And if I would like to talk a little bit about the trailer and stuff. Maybe we can do that in our next like Pixel Bits episode or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it looked good. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Other than that, we Critical Role per usual, mainstay on the channel. That's coming up soon. Anything else to really say in our announcements here?
No, I don't think so. Thank you guys for being so patient about the Critical Role episode. I think you finished it, right? Or
yeah.
I have not watched it at all, and it's 5 hours. So pretty much Will every day is like, so how about now? So for you guys waiting, totally on me. I'm sorry about that, fam. But it is on my list tomorrow to get it watched, and then should have that episode up either tomorrow night or Wednesday. So
yeah, awesome. So we got that to look forward to. And then I did just see, as a kind of final little piece here, I just saw this, the Worlds Beyond Number. They announced that, the episodes typically come out Tuesday, which would be tomorrow. They said it's going to be delayed until Wednesday, but they said for like good reason. Like it's like they didn't like expand beyond that, but I'm assuming because maybe it's going to require some extra editing or something. But definitely got my interests percolating.
Yeah, I am peaked.
Yeah, so for anybody that hadn't seen that yet, come tomorrow. If you're like, "Where's the new episode?" It's going to come out Wednesday.
It's too bad because I listen to it when I drive to a meeting on Tuesday mornings.
That is unfortunate.
No. All right.
Well, you could always well, never mind, scratch that. Well, you can start on Critical Role now.
You're right. Yeah, I got an hour of that.
Boom. Alrighty, y'all. Without further ado, let's jump into our recap of the episode before we dive into our full proper discussion. And this is episode 11, Promises. We host the recap separately on YouTube. Forgot to give that little spiel. So if you find yourself on the recap video, a link to our full discussion will be in the description. So without further ado, episode 11, Promises. So we pick up with our ragtag crew at Orima's shrine, and they have just been given, again, this ultimatum. Basically, help bring me into this world or die. So kind of a lot happens in this scene. Suvi is still not sure if she's on mute or not, but she's basically muttering under her breath that we can't do this. Orima will kill countless thousands, and maybe it's just Naram's fault for letting himself get caught. Ursulon, meanwhile, is concerned with this threat, specifically on Ame's life, and he makes a nat 20, I believe, perception check, and just picks up on about 30 moving creatures that we find out are called Undre, which means stranglers in like the spirit language. Suvi decides she wants to cast Identify on the shrine, on the offering, but it's a minute-long cast, so Brennan tells her that she can begin to cast that. So she does that. Ame makes I think it's a survival check to kind of get a grip on things as well, specifically to determine where Orima like actually is. And she realizes that she's unable to appear in the material plane without their assistance because of this offering that's on the shrine, which is apparently a very good offering. And Ame basically is like, okay, let me just beg, and is like, hey, just can you please trust us that we'll free Naram for you? And that way, the people of Port Talon won't be punished. And Orima just kind of scoffs. And it's at this point that Ursulon realizes, like, hey, if you kill us, then you're screwed too, because there's nobody here to help you.
Right.
So he's like, just let us do this. Like, we're your best chance. Like, let us save Naram for you. And in this pleading that Ursulon's doing, he mentions their names. And when he says Suvi, Orima says, who is Suvi? And that's when Ursulon notices Suvi is being like hidden by this amulet around her neck. And in all of this, all these things are kind of happening simultaneously almost. So Ame also notices during this that the offering bowl on the shrine has a rooster's crest on it. The presumption being that this was Grandmother Rin's. So Ame asks Orima if she knew Rin, and Orima did. And Ame says, like, I am her successor, and so, like, if you had any respect for her, could you please, like, allow us to try to help you? And Orima says, you know what, this doesn't matter, because none of you, like, can wield Wavebreaker. Only I can. And Ursulon says, no, like, I can as well, and I will. And Orima's like, listen, you can just walk out of here, like, live a life of ease. Just let me out. I'll spare you, and you never have to think about this again. And in response to that, Ursulon just picks up the sword and tells her, my breath is in my honor, and doing this will bring me honor. Like, I will free your husband. And the culmination of all of this basically ends with Orima, you're realizing she kind of doesn't have much of a choice here. And she says, please do not fail. Like, please save my husband. And so at that, the vines that have kind of been keeping them in this shrine area part. But she does kind of one final thing that she says is, the door behind you is closed and you are lost on the great path through the forest. There is no way out, only through. And before they begin to leave, Suvi does finishes her identify on the bowl and realizes that there's this powerful magic that is preventing Orima from manifesting. Suvi has this question, we're told, of if Rin passed, why are her spells still working? And then she kind of has this moment of seeing Ame in a new light as, she is no longer an apprentice. So they leave the shrine and they find a place to rest for the night in this village. And Ursulon notices that Suvi's pendant has stopped doing whatever it was doing. And Suvi only realizes just now that her pendant that she always keeps hidden has like popped out. And by the way, during this whole episode, Suvi has been rolling awfully, like just very, very, very poorly. And so Brennan has her make like a wisdom save just to kind of like go in conjunction to serve the story for like these bad rolls. And she actually rolls pretty well on that. But he has Ame and Ursulon roll an insight check into Suvi's deception to kind of see what maybe is revealed here. And Suvi says that there's kind of a crack in her facade. She is indeed a young wizard still, who in the face of everything that's happening can really only focus on one thing at a time. Especially after the day and a half trek through the woods. So like she is cracking, she is breaking, and she's not able to hide that like she maybe normally would be able to. So they find rest in this tavern. Ame keeps watch while her friends sleep. And the only other thing that happens before the break here is Ame and the fox have a great convo where, he says he'll keep watch if she wants to sleep. And she's like, well, I don't know if I can trust you. You might just run off and do what you want to do. And he promises, I'll always tell you what it is I want to do. And there's just really heartfelt convo.
Bro, how about that line about like when you die, you forget or whatever? And he was like, I'll never forget you.
Yes.
I just thought, bro.
Because he's like, I don't want you to die because if you die, do I like lose my magic?
Yeah.
And it's just a great combo.
It was.
But that takes us into the break, if you want to take it from there, my friend.
Yeah, so this was around like the 45-minute mark, and the party gets up from their rest. It's their first good rest since they first left Port Talon to find Ame and Orima, and they are making their way back to Port Talon. And unfortunately, it's not a very positive conversation. As Will joked about Suvi making terrible rolls, these rolls will continue, and there's another better way to put it. Suvi is feeling a bit snarky and they are essentially talking about what they've just been through at the shrine. And in this conversation, Ame is kind of giving Orma the benefit of the doubt of, even though she seemed abrasive, even though she was, threatening to kill everybody, she just wants to rom, like she just wants to be taken care of ultimately. And Suvi, meanwhile, which by the way, Aabria has like some of the most heart-filled, raw, emotional lines in this, where she calls Orma deeply cruel. And there's this interesting conversation where I think the fox asks if the world of Umora is this for people or is this for spirits? Because Suvi basically says, like, this is our place. This isn't the place for spirits. And even so much as as they're having this conversation, basically says, like, if you try to mess around with us, like, you'll get what's coming to you. And references even Naram in that. Brennan actually pauses for a moment and asks Ursulon, hey, in this moment, like, would you have realized, like, would you have taken what she's saying, like this harsh language around spirits, like, would you have connected that to yourself or no? And Ursulon says, I don't think I would have in this moment. So this could be a sort of a light bulb, harder conversation later on down the road. Party continues. They make it to Port Talon. They're trying to decide how to get back into town, and so they try the pregnant sister thing again. And the guards immediately are like, "Who are you? What are you doing? Anything coming out of the Kutsu cannot be trusted. Like, it's been overrun for weeks now." And they're like, "No, like, we were going to Lambry, like, we're trying to get back." And they immediately are suspicious of them as being like trickster spirits of some kind. As is tradition, Suvi rolls yet again, totally bombs the roll. The guard's not buying it. A second guard comes up and is like to the first guard, like, hey, you're still learning this. We actually don't like to have like a long conversation with them. We just arrest them. And so the guard's like, hey, we're going to arrest you now. Just go ahead and, put your hands behind your back. And Suvi is like, there's no other way to put this. She is spiraling out at this point. She's panicking because this was like big vibes of your mom's going to find out what you've been doing. And they know they are mere hours from Steele arriving in town. She doesn't want Steele to know what she's been doing. And so in a panic, she starts to threaten the guards and is like, you don't want to do this. You're going to lose your jobs. And then even says things like, hey, I don't want to have to kill you. To which Brennan has the guards basically be like, normally we'd be pretty shaken up by that, but we're going to let that go. But then actually Suvi's going to throw out I can't think of what it was called. A cantrip, a bolt of some kind. And Brennan has this really cool sort of above the table moment with Aabria and says, Suvi, if you kill these guards, your life will be forever changed. So Suvi's like, I don't want to kill them. I just want to intimidate them. Intimidation checks are like a 5. I think she has like a persuasion check. It's like a 7. She like removes the illusion of the staff and like fails that roll. They all get arrested. They get put in this wagon. They get taken to these barracks where Suvi is continuing to threaten them with their jobs. And Brennan points out, hey, there's like 200 guards around you now. And finally, she name drops Galani, who's at the governor's mansion, and the sergeant agrees to go find out more information. Leaves, comes back with Galani. They have something in their wagon that they pull out and reveal to be a large mirror, the speaking mirror that she originally spoke to Steele to in the governor's mansion. The mirror kicks on, and it appears to be a skyship. A ship that without like billowing waves, but actually like clouds blowing past side by side, which I don't know if that was your take. That was my take on it.
I didn't put that together, but I think you're right now.
Yeah. And here is Steele adorned in golden armor. It's an armor set that she hasn't seen since the day years ago when Steele came to say that her parents weren't coming home. And Steele immediately rips into her. It's like, I told you to lock this down. What were you thinking? And Ame begins to speak. Suvi says, hey, shut up. this is between me and Steel, and Steel's basically like, Suvi, no, you shut up. Ame, I want to hear what's going on. And that is our cliffhanger of an ending. Episode 11, Promises, Promises of The Wizard, the Witch, and the Wild One. And again, if you want to hear our thoughts on the episode beyond the recap, you can click the link in the description, take us to our full discussion, and let us know what you thought as well for this episode. So,
Yes, my friend. Well done. Yeah,
dude.
Skyship. That makes so much sense.
Yeah, that was my take on it. At least I was like, oh, I guess it's a skyship.
Yeah, because I was trying to parse what he meant. I was like, you can't see the sea behind him. Does that mean they've like docked? But no, it's
Right.
because he did mention the clouds and stuff. So yeah, that's cool. Because prior to that, we had no mention of those existing, right?
Right.
So that's cool. Which
Yeah.
I guess would also make sense as the fastest way to travel, presumably with the teleportation door and being down for a mysterious reason.
Right.
Or at least one of them that we know of is down. I guess that doesn't necessarily mean that like the whole network's down necessarily.
Right.
But yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm glad you said that because I did not pick up on that at all.
Yeah. So, crazy episode, dude. Suvi, I was at one point, I was like, are you high? Like, this is crazy. I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And I loved Brennan sort of pulling back as the DM to be like, hey man, just so you know, if you do this, it's gonna be a big deal.
Yeah.
So kind of like coaching her to maybe not kill these guards.
Yeah.
So not that she necessarily would have, but yeah, Suvi's really floundering a bit.
Yeah. I thought so the whole her terrible rolls, I guess I'll put it that way. I just thought it was really cool of Aabria to like, you know, a lot of times if you have a bad roll, especially if you have a sequence of bad rolls, it's very frustrating, you know, obviously. But it's so cool how she turned that into a character moment.
Right. Yeah.
You know, of her just, and of course it all makes perfect sense too. But of her just like breaking down, like not knowing,
Right.
like she has like one driving factor, if you will, and like that's not working, and she just keeps running into a wall. And so what do? Like you break, like she broke. So I thought that was like masterfully done in terms of how to like turn poor rolls into like a really cool thing. So shout out to Aabria, and also shout out to Brennan for the cool wisdom save idea. I'm curious like what would have happened. I'm assuming she succeeded on whatever it was because she rolled like a 22, I think.
Yeah, right.
But I really liked that. I mean, not that that was even necessary because of what I just said with Aabria like really playing into it role play wise. But I am curious like what Brendan had in mind there, if it was going to be like an exhaustion point, like because you're emotionally like drained, or I mean, who knows? Could have been anything. Maybe we'll get to see it future in the campaign. Because I believe when he did that, he brought up. And I may be confusing points, but he's like, we'll get higher and higher level. Like we'll see more of our homebrew.
He brought up the secondary stat.
That's right.
I love this kind of stuff, by the way. I love like the little tweaks and homebrewing that happens. But so for you guys who maybe missed it, Brennan said that, and I don't know if this excludes Ursulon as a paladin, but he did say we did some homebrewing for wizards and witches where they have like their primary stat. Which for you guys who play D&D, you have a primary stat that is connected to your specific class. But he said that those two classes also had a secondary stat, which for Ame, it was charisma was a secondary stat, with her primary stat being wisdom. And for Suvi, her primary stat was intellect, which is true to wizards in 5e, with the secondary stat wisdom.
Yeah.
I would have been really interested if she had failed that roll, if that would have affected, if it would have been not like exhaustion, but like something like that, where like your rolls now, and taking like the play test rules for exhaustion, like now your rolls have like a penalty of -1 until like your next long rest or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's like you feel so bad that she's missing so many roles, but then when she finally hits one, you're like, ooh, that was the one that
Yeah.
I wanted to see you fail. So
Yeah, for sure. And I bet Ursulon does. I mean, at least I would assume has a
mm,
secondary stat as well. But I guess we'll see. But
yeah,
yeah, I love these like cool little homebrew tweaks
yeah,
that Brennan's making and that anyone would make. You know, it's always fun to hear how people homebrew stuff in their own games. But of course, especially with someone as skilled as Brennan, it's just cool to like see what his mind comes up with for stuff like
right.
this. Um, but yeah, Suvi. I know I already said it, but just kind of round out the circle here. I just thought it was a masterclass in dealing with poor roles and actually turning them into something cool for the story. Um, and it's going to be interesting. Sorry to like skip ahead to the end of the episode, but just interesting to see like what comes of this in the face of having one being already like broken and now having to deal with Steel, who is
Mhm.
not happy.
I think there's going to be some real consequences. Consequences, not like, I mean, that's too harsh of a word. I think Brennan already played like the frustrated mother, stepmother. I almost feel like there's going to be some kind of outcome from this, whether direct or not. Yeah, I'm really interested. I'm really interested to see where this goes. I was going to say something else just now, and I lost my train of thought as I started speaking.
About what Steel might do or what might happen with
Oh,
Suvi.
I remember it, but I'm actually going to hold it. It's still about Suvi, but I want to hold it till after we're done talking about Steel. But yeah, I actually didn't realize it was Steel at first because with Galani crying,
Yeah,
I thought, did someone die? And then when Brennan described Steel in like the golden armor, I was like, oh, is this like a diplomat to tell her that Steel died? Which I was like, oh my gosh. But then it was Steel. But yeah, traveling in some kind of that ceremonial is not the right word, but like I guess like a more formal attire that Suvi hasn't seen since that day. I have so many questions. I'm like, why?
I didn't take it
But,
that way.
okay.
I thought Steel always wore the gold armor.
Well, the reason I asked is because the reason I was confused was because Brennan made the note of you hadn't seen this since the day Steele came to tell you your parents weren't coming home.
I
But we
do
know
remember his phrasing around that. So yeah, you're right.
she's seen Steele
Right.
multiple times since
And in
then.
episode 1 was she not wearing, cuz I remember like the woman being described as the sword of the Citadel and it was like
Right.
during the military ceremony. So like surely she would have been wearing
Yeah.
her armor, right? So maybe she has multiple sets and like the golden, I don't know.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah,
is the implication that she like chewed out Galani or something? Or
Uh, I guess so because I was gonna bring that up too because he was crying, and so here's maybe what I'm thinking is that I presumably maybe they were in communication, Steele and Galani, and as you know, Suvi's room was left with like the door busted in,
right,
and they were just gone. So maybe
right.
Galani had to like message Steele and be like, her door is broken in and she's gone. So like maybe like they thought she
Yeah.
was dead or something. And so maybe he got chewed out for that.
Yeah.
But then clearly so I don't know how the timing would work out with that, but if it's not that, then yeah, I'm very curious as to why
Hmm.
he was crying.
She was crying, I think. I think Galani's a she.
Oh, it is.
I think so.
i
Maybe
I have
not. There
no
was
confidence in this now,
I
but for
have
some
no
reason I was
idea.
assuming a man. um
I don't know. I don't know.
I have no idea now.
Hey, but while we're on talking about Steel, so how we've been kind of talking about like this little kind of conspiracy theory of could Steel be the one who cursed Ame and grandmother Ren? And it was like, well, Steele's like, like a mother to Suvi. I just thought it was interesting that Suvi on the way back to Port Talon was like, no, Steel is like, she's bad. Like she can, not like evil, but I think they were even talking about Orma and Orma being like so crazy and being like, no, Steel's worse, which made me think, okay, this is a side we haven't really seen of her. Like we know she's the sword of the Citadel. So she's not like this coddling, sweet, maternal figure.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a war hero side to her. And so I don't know, just kind of fed that conspiracy a little bit for me. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I wrote that down too. But I also wrote probably not worth reading into, but it triggered the same way for me because like at the moment was like Suvi was crying and she's like, they're gonna kill me. And Ursula's like, that I'm not gonna let them kill you. And she's like, no, Steel's crazy. So
Yeah.
like that could
Yeah.
very easily be like she's just, she knows she messed up. Just like, like, oh, I forgot to take the trash out. My mom's gonna kill me. Like when you're younger,
Yeah.
So you
Right.
would say that, but obviously your mom's not gonna actually kill you. So
Yeah.
it could 100% and is probably more that, but it could also kind of be a glimmer into a darker, crazier side of Steel. So I'm right there with you that pinged for me, but I don't know how to, it's probably the other thing, but could it be this? So yeah, I had that same
Uh,
thought. Um, and she clearly made Galani cry, whatever it was about. Like,
yeah.
she upset him. Um, but yeah, there was one other thing I wanted to say about Steel, and it just evaporated. Um, but yeah, I'm just curious about, this is something we've talked about before, but just kind of curious about like what's gonna happen from here. Oh, I remembered. Um, I'm with you, and I know I'm like going ramble mode right now, but you said we kind of already got the like the slap on the wrist kind of reaction from Steele the first time they spoke. So
Mhm.
now there's probably going to be some consequences, like you said. I agree, and really to me, like what's like the biggest consequence? It would be you're done. Like you're back to the Citadel right now.
Yeah.
Like right. I mean, aside from like I'm gonna kill you, which obviously that's not gonna happen, but I'm curious how that gets, because clearly she's not going to go back to the Citadel, like in terms of the
Right.
story, right? So like,
Right.
how's that going to work? Is she going to just talk her down? Maybe. Um, we know they have the Wavebreaker and this whole mission to free Naram. It's going to be very interesting to get Steele's perspective on the whole situation, because if she's team, oh Galani, magnificent, like we captured one of these things, let's use it for the Citadel, the war. Then like that's a stark you know forking point as far as Suvi is
Mhm.
concerned. Like, okay, does she like literally go against Steel after like already being in so much trouble, or is Steel gonna be like agreeable to their wanting to free Naram? I really don't see that happening, but it
I
is
almost
possible.
wonder if Suvi would be Team Steel, like
Like
Team Wizard.
flip and not want to
I
help anymore.
mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
There's been so many cool details that Aabria has created for Suvi. Like we know we've kind of always assumed her to be pro spirit, for lack of better phrasing, because of her connection to Ursulon.
yeah,
And I think this is one of the most compelling points for her character, in that when Moro was showing Naram, Suvi had that great line of like, I went from pretending to be surprised or excited to actually being excited. Well, then we got two more details that I think was interesting. One, um, when they were having their argument, her and Ame, and Ame, they talked about like not letting Orima free, and Suvi just flatly says like, I wouldn't have let you, like you wouldn't have been able to do that. Um, I think said even something about like protecting the wizards or something. Like I wouldn't have let or you do that or affect the wizards of. I don't remember the phrasing, but that was really interesting to me. And then how she talked about spirits. We know in that argument, we know the
yeah,
Citadel. I'm going to put this phrasing from my own perception: uses and abuses spirits to their own gain. We know Naram isn't the first of this kind of situation.
right.
And I don't know. The best analogy I can think of is like when you find out like your family are a bunch of racists, and your friend who you're talking to about it, you're like, wait, are you racist? Like, you're like, wait a second. Like, that's kind of the vibe I get from Suvi of like, yeah, Suvi's one of the good ones, but like the more they get in this conversation, I'm like, I think Suvi might be like big time what's it called when you get brainwashed?
Like indoctrinated.
Yeah, big time indoctrinated. And like, so going back to the original point, I think if push came to shove and it was like, this is what Orma's asked for, and Steel was like, we're not doing that. I could see Suvi being like, yeah, we're not.
Yeah.
That's what Suvi says, or Steel says.
Yeah, totally. Like I really don't see Steel. Like I see Steel being on Moro's end of the spectrum. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how Suvi reacts. Oh, and real quick, I realized Galani is a woman. I was thinking Moro.
Oh, okay.
I was thinking it was Moro that was crying, but you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Okay.
Galani is a woman. So I'm curious if. Okay, wait. I don't want to pivot us just yet. On the Suvi thing, they briefly talked about this in the fireside chat, and Brennan put it pretty eloquently, I thought, in that Suvi kind of serves two masters, one being like the Citadel and everything she's learned her whole life, and two being like her friendship uh,
Mm-hmm.
to Ame and Ursulon. And he doesn't know. Again, this was Brennan saying this, so it wasn't Aabria. So he's like, but I don't know if she's aware that she has like two sets of programming that are kind of contradictory,
Mm-hmm.
and at times she's following one, and at times she's following another. At some point, there's going to come a point where like that can't continue. One is going to have to overtake the other. Um, I think that's just like a nice way of encapsulating what we're talking about here. But I'm curious if this moment, this kind of thing with Naram could be one of the first like self realizations of that. I don't know. We'll see. I do think that, and we've talked about this at length, but the kind of whole like Suvi's character and like being pro Citadel, eventually kind of converging away from that, presumably. I do think that's going to be like a longer arc that won't like
Yeah.
resolve this next episode. But I do think it could at least be explored as soon as
Yeah.
this next episode.
I mean, and I want that exploration to involve Ursulon's reaction. And she said some pretty harsh things, like,
Yes.
people, spirits who come here, like, get what they deserve. And here's
Yes.
Ursulon, who for 10 episodes, we've been hearing him talk about how utterly miserable his life has been. I just,
And it's partially her fault. I won't from the
yeah.
children's adventure, you get some more insight onto like why Ursulon is over here and not in the spirit world. So it's just very harsh of her to say, and
Mhm.
I so love that Brennan brought it up, because I don't know if it hit either of the two of them.
It didn't hit me
You know,
until
yeah, it didn't hit me
Brennan
either.
figured it out. And I was like, oh, dang, that's very true.
Yeah, like you're basically your best friend over there. You know what
Yeah.
happens to him happens to him. I don't care. Um, and I also thought it like I love Lou like not engaging with it in the moment. You know,
Mhm.
because that was like as an amateur D&D'er, if I can call myself that. One, it probably wouldn't have hit me, just like it didn't hit them in the moment. But then if like my DM brought it up, I'd be like, oh, that's like so juicy. Like, yeah, I'm engaging with that. But he chose to be like, you know what, in this moment, like I don't think that registers. I don't know. I just think that's like
Yeah.
a cool move,
Yeah. It's
like shows his
patience.
skill, like because obviously
Yeah.
that's gonna be engaged with later, and so I think
Yeah.
it's kind of cool to like step away from it for now.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. He's savoring till the right moment
yeah,
to eat
that's right.
that morsel of drama.
Okay. Um, I kind of am gonna pivot now, if that's unless you have more
Yeah.
to say about the whole steel situation. All right. To pivot to the Orima stuff. One, I think it's crazy that they walked out of there basically
Unscathed. Yeah.
unscathed and basically got exactly what they wanted. You know,
Yeah.
like props to Ame and Ursulon for mostly Ame, but Ursulon as well for like handling it as they did and being able to accomplish that. Well, okay, two things actually. One, confirmation that Suvi was indeed like
I know.
blocked, cloaked,
When
which I believe
that
her
happened, I
pendant.
was like, I was like, freaking Will, this guy.
Was the pendant was her mother's, right? I know
I
her
think
the ring was
so.
her father's, and then I couldn't
Yeah,
remember the pendant, but I think it was her mom's.
yeah, I think so.
So I guess it just has some kind of built-in
Yeah.
protection from I guess like great dangers, maybe specifically great spirits. But that we've seen them encounter, I guess not that many, but at least a couple of spirits, like one including Ursulon himself, and nothing's ever happened. So I'm
Well,
curious, like what
and
the parameters on that thing
well,
are.
interestingly enough, when the King of the Night came to visit, there was no um,
Oh yeah,
there was no inclination that
that's interesting.
they were aware of Aabria Suvi being in the home.
Oh yeah, okay.
So
I kind of want to go
it
back
might,
and watch that scene
yeah, it
again.
might be great spirits.
Hmm. But
So
super cool, and curious to find out more about like what's actually happening there, like what triggers it, what is it doing.
right,
Because again, Orima wasn't like manifested, so maybe it's not fair to say like she was at
yeah,
her full capability, but to like cloak yourself from a great spirit seems like a must be pretty powerful magic. Um,
yeah, oh
and
yeah,
only the spirit, because Ursulon could still like they could still see her.
yeah.
Um, so I thought that was interesting. Um, okay, I know I'm like just rattling off shotgun style, but there's a few different things during this that I wanted to talk about. One, amazing that they got away with the W like they did. Two, we found out that Orima can see out of any of her eyes anywhere, even just like a depiction on a wall. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, very cool lore detail.
Yeah, and so I'm curious. I'm assuming clearly that's not every spirit, obviously, but I wonder if that's like even amongst the great spirits, is that still like a level of power, or do they all
Yeah,
similarly have that
and I think
ability?
we got confirmation that that included the statue at the plaza,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I was
Outside
gonna.
the
So I'm
House of
guessing
Wands.
that's why that thing happened. I would imagine, like with Ame, I mean, like why she like had the stuff in her stomach and like I'm assuming maybe
Yeah,
Orima like literally did that in that moment. So I thought that was really cool. Um, all right, now the whole Rin connection I wanted to talk to you about because, and speaking of the statue in the plaza moment, as you pointed out, that was presumably a vision of the future, like what would happen if
right.
Orima and Naram's dad, or was it Orima's dad? I don't remember.
Naram's dead. Yeah,
Naram's dad came and like unleashed hell on Port Talon for, um, what they did to Naram, and I'm totally with you on that. But what's curious is like if that was a future vision and like hadn't happened in the past, I'm curious why Rin would like lock Orima out. Because presumably that must have happened like a while ago. Um, and she obviously has a reputation, a bad reputation for being
hmm,
like even Ursulon's dad was scared of her. So maybe it was just based on that. Um, but even with that being the case, where Rin has seemingly kind of cleverly outsmarted Orima, Orima still regarded Rin with respect. Like she wasn't like, "Oh,
yeah,
grandmother Rin, that's the person who's locked me out." Like that
yeah.
wasn't the reaction.
I
Um,
kind of took it to be, and I think this is why it wasn't so like cut and dry articulated. Like I take it to be this very complicated kind of song and dance kind of deal of like, and I can't even articulate it without sounding stupid. Like something like, I place this offering, which is like tradition, and then you by tradition also don't, you agree not to enter in. And I know Brennan used the phrasing like something clever was happening here, but I didn't necessarily take it as like grandmother Rin tricked Orima in some way. Because Orima was also aware that the offering in the bowl was what was preventing her entry.
right.
But yeah, definitely a lot more to unpack there. And especially I love Brennan's line, if grandmother Rin's gone, why is her magic still here? Which I love how these questions get asked and then the players are like, yeah. And then I'm like, you should ask what that means. So
I took it to mean that in the betrothal of the cottage and this Fane of Power, and overtaking Grandmother
oh,
Rin as the witch of
yeah,
Toma,
Tomo.
that
Yeah.
like Ame now had that power. So like any active things that Rin
Yeah.
had, like Ame now,
That
not
makes
she might
way
not be
more
like
sense.
cognizant of the fact
Yeah.
that she's doing it, but like it's
I was like,
continuing on.
is she not dead? Like, is she somewhere out there? Your answer makes way more sense for sure.
That's how
And
I took it.
it also ties into Brennan giving Ame that really cool line of, because like honestly, Ame has been criticized endlessly by Suvi, and so giving Ame this line around stepping into her own and parlaying this agreement with this great spirit, a massive spirit. That was a cool moment for Ame.
Yeah.
But that does track though, if that's the case.
Um yeah, agreed. I love that moment of, she's no longer an apprentice, I think is what he said. Um but yeah, I just am curious, like, why Rin would have done that. And again, maybe it's as simple as Orima's bad news and she just wanted to protect this place. But yeah, Orima not having like hatred towards Rin
Mm.
interested me. And again, she not that she like respect. I mean, maybe it's fair to say she seemingly respected her. Um, but it could also play into the fact of why Rin had Wavebreaker, maybe. Um, but yeah,
True.
I'm curious if Rin, or excuse me, if sorry, new question here. Clearly, she can't come into the world because of the offering on the shrine. Um, do you take that to mean that she can't manifest in anywhere in the world because of this offering on this shrine? Because that's what I took it to mean. Because seemingly, if it's
Yeah,
like,
I
well, let me
mean,
just come over to this island and I'll just, walk 500 miles. But,
it is Orima Shrine, so I mean, yeah, I could see that for sure.
presumably she has multiple shrines, though, right? Like,
I don't know.
I would imagine.
I
But
would
yeah,
I would
I guess we
assume
don't know.
so, but yeah, I don't know. Um, and maybe only a witch can do it. Like maybe only a witch can remove the enchantment. Because like, why not have your dendrites or whatever they were called?
That's true. She did ask
So
Ursulon to do it though, but
that's
maybe it
true.
has to be like, you know,
Hmm.
something. Um, but yeah, I was just I was wondering why Rin would have completely wanted to block her from entering the world. Um, which
Yeah.
maybe it's like you said, like not that she tricked her necessarily, but it's just something clever about it. Which I think we don't know the why, but I think the how was, like you said, if I make you this offering, you don't come in. And like the cleverness was that the food never spoiled, is how I took it. And so like, so there
Yeah.
was
Okay.
always an offering, meaning she could never come
Hmm.
out. But yeah, so I know I've been long winded here, but I was just very curious what the relationship with Rin was, because
Hmm.
it's just so interesting to me that
Yeah.
she still
Hmm.
respected her, even
Yeah.
though you think it would be a thorn in her side.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Um, the party is still interestingly enough level 1 still.
yeah,
I saw some conversation today on Reddit about thinking about their subclasses, which none of them have at level 1. But 11 episodes in, 22 weeks, almost half a year.
yeah.
I know we've said this will go on for years, but I'm like, oh dang, you really do mean years. Like it's a long time to be level 1.
Yeah, for sure. And I know we talked about this. I don't know if it was last episode or when, but like I haven't felt it at all.
Yeah,
Like I
right.
haven't been like. I mean, of course, like yes, I want them to level just because like that's cool. Like you want to see like what new abilities they get. But like beyond that, I haven't been like, man, can they please level up from level 1? Like this is boring. Like not at all.
Right.
So tribute to Brennan. And this quasi related. But in the fireside chat, he did say something that I wanted to bring up. Let me just look it up really quick. But it was about combat, and because they kind of got away without having to do any combat with Orima in this case, and he was like, my philosophy is like this is not there's not like a okay, we've had 3 episodes without a combat, like I have to have a combat this session. He's like, this is not the story we're telling. Like, we'll have combat when it makes sense to have combat. Like, we'll have combat when the way my players interact with the world, when it like rationally makes sense for combat to then ensue, like that's when combat will happen. And I think that's like a healthy attitude to have, because I know some people are like, you have to have a combat every session, and if you didn't, especially every other session, like if you didn't have one, and obviously that depends on your table. Like if your players are all there to be like combat fiends, then you probably should have combat every session.
I think you hit it on the head. I mean, I think you design it around what your players want, and these people all know Brennan really well and obviously appreciate his flow. I will say, from like an entertainment perspective, combat can get incredibly boring to watch.
Yeah.
And it takes a long time. It really does. So like for you guys who are like watching and maybe you're thinking about that pacing for your own campaign, I think it's something you figure out with your players. And Will joked about it, but we have played with somebody who like their expectation was every session would have combat. And this new campaign or group that I'm playing with, we were talking about this exact thing on Friday, and I said, look, we could definitely have combat every session, but if we're only getting together for 2 hours, you need to know with 8 people, combat's going to be about 90 minutes.
You have 8 people?
I think there's 9 actually.
Like not counting you?
Not counting me.
They're all new?
They're all new.
Oh man.
We're not long for this. Hang on. I think my daughter fell down or something.
Oh gosh,
so,
yeah.
give me a second.
Yeah, you're good. So yeah, I don't know how many of you guys have access to the fireside chats, but would highly recommend, if you can afford the $5 a month. I've thoroughly enjoyed listening to them talk each week or every other week. Just getting to pick their brains, or not me personally getting to pick their brains, but just getting to see their brains picked by each other is really fascinating. So to cycle this back to the level 1 thing, I feel like you can kind of connect Brennan's philosophy on combat. Maybe it's not fair to connect this, but to the fact that they're still level 1, meaning that like there's no set amount of episodes or time or events that need to happen that therefore lead to level 2. Like, oh, we had 3 combats, we had 4 social encounters, we should be level 9 by now. No, I think they're going to level up when it best serves the story, and that's a great way to do it. Teach their own, of course, but like we mentioned, I have not once felt like, man, they're level 1 still. Like, this is like, they need to get some new spells. This is boring. Combat is uneventful. Never once. And I think that obviously speaks to Brennan's skill as a DM, and also the player's skill of making level 1 combat and social interactions, only having the spells and abilities they have, interesting nonetheless. So yeah, that's my little spiel on that. And again, only $4.99. You too can enjoy the fireside chats with Brennan, Erika, Aabria, and Adonis. Which, for those of you that don't have it, Lou Wilson has this bit where every week he's not Lou Wilson, he's some other guy that is filling in for Lou Wilson. And most recently, it was Adonis. I can't remember the last name, and he was shirtless. So, good times. Oh, and you also get access to the special one-shots they do, like the most recent one, A County Affair, which Erika Ishii GM'd her first time doing so. And that was fun. And it seems like they have a lot of that kind of stuff planned. So, now that I've vamped for like 3 minutes with my Fireside Chat Patreon plug, what to talk about now? Oh, how perfect.
All right, she fell off the bed. So.
Oh, she okay?
She is, but she was very upset.
Thing.
Yeah, she apparently popped up and just like went right off. So, yeah, sorry about that. She was like banging on the door. I was like, something happened here.
No, you're good. And that was actually perfect timing because I just was going through a little spiel and I just ended and I was like, okay, what am I going to talk about now? And that's when you
Yeah.
showed up.
What do I
So
do now?
yeah, oh, good
Yeah,
timing.
cool. So you just outroed us basically.
No, I can do that though, but
Oh, okay.
I didn't I didn't know if we were ready to outro, so I was talking about the fireside
Yeah.
chats.
No, I don't remember what we even were talking about. I just yeah, it's a big group of people. Here's my thinking for my D&D group, this new one, is I'm going in with like zero expectations, kind of like that last group you and I played with, where I was like, if it goes one session, that's okay.
Yeah,
So we'll see. We'll see. It's a big group and no one's played before. So
I meant to tell.
we'll see how it goes
When did you know? Do you have your first session?
on the 15th. So in a couple weeks,
Okay, nice,
2 weeks from tomorrow.
nice. Well, yeah, you have to keep us posted on how that goes.
Yeah.
I don't want to sidetrack us, but speaking of that other group that you just mentioned a couple weeks ago, one of those guys messaged me, and I hadn't talked to them since then. And
Mhm.
it was small talk at first, but I was like, well, not that you can't just message an old friend out of nowhere, but I
Mhm.
was like, I wonder why he's messaging me. And then like a few messages in, it was like, man, we really loved playing with you. We'd love for you to DM for us. And I was like, uh, man, nah. I was like, I don't know if I have time for that right now. But I just
You
thought it
should
was
do it.
funny.
You're a great DM. I
I
really
would
like
have,
playing with
I
you.
would have much rather like played, but I don't know. DM's
Do you prefer to
hefty.
play than
I
DM?
don't prefer to play, but DMing is so much work.
It really is,
So
yeah.
that's why I just don't know if I had like if I did DM, I really would want to make sure like I could like do
Yeah.
it right. Um,
I try to like not be humble at all with the amount of work that goes into a session. Just when people, fortunately, everyone in my regular group they're pretty good about like being up to date on things.
yeah.
But, like if someone's like, "Oh yeah, I haven't even chosen my spells when we leveled up 4 sessions ago," I'm like, "Yeah,
Thanks.
I did hours of prep
Right.
for." These are all custom stat blocks for these monsters.
Yeah.
So anyway.
100%. And not there's 7 ways to skin a cat. Is that the phrase? Let's move on.
Maybe.
So I mean, there definitely are ways to DM where like you don't have to like do 3 hours for every hour played. But
Right.
I haven't DM'd that much. Basically, just one campaign, and that didn't even end. But so
Mm.
with that being my only experience, I spent way too much time, honestly, like world building and plotting out like
Mm.
the lore and stuff that like never touched ever. And so like
Yeah.
so I wouldn't need to do that again, but like that's like my process. So for me, like
Yeah.
if I'm gonna DM again, unless I use that same world, like that's like so
Well,
much work.
you can pick up and recycle stuff.
Yeah,
You
no,
know?
for sure. I mean, if I did DM again, I would recycle all of that, honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've gotten sidetracked here. But yeah, I just thought it was funny that they
Yeah.
not. I love those guys. But I just thought it was
Oh
funny
yeah,
that
no,
like we
no.
hadn't talked in forever, and it was like, hey,
Yeah, yeah,
DM for us, and I was like, oh,
yeah.
that's
Either
why
makes
you
something.
reached out.
Yeah, I would really like to do just for you guys who are listening. When the new Critical Role system comes out, I'd love for us all to do. I say all. Some of you guys for
Yeah,
us to do like a session together or something. So,
yeah, that would
but
be really fun.
anyway,
Um,
okay.
okay. Did you have anything else from this episode?
I don't think so.
Okay, let me quickly scan through my notes.
This would have been a really good Pixel Bits conversation, by the way.
Which one?
What we just had,
Oh
just
yeah. We can
combat, DMing, and
yeah,
yeah.
we can re-dive
Which,
into it.
if you guys haven't seen, we started a new series called Pixel Bits, and it's like it's going to be just a talk show every week or every other week, where we kind of it's kind of unstructured. We get on a microphone and just chat about what we've been playing, thinking about, talking about. So it's not going to be about a certain show, but like that conversation we just had about DMing and D&D. That'd be a good example of the kind of stuff you'd see in there. So if you like that kind of content, you can check it out on our channel. We have episode 1 up. We debate the greatest actor of all time, if it is in fact Tom Cruise
We
or
didn't
not,
actually get into that, but that would have made a great
um,
episode.
including a slew of other things. But you guys can check that out if you like that kind of content.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, I'm looking through. I think we hit all the main things I wanted to hit. I'm just curious to see what happens next.
Mm-hmm. I guess we'll find out Wednesday.
Indeed.
All right.
Indeed.
Well,
Alrighty, y'all. Yeah, that's gonna do it. Next thing you'll see from us is probably gonna be Critical Role, and then episode 12 of this. So,
yep.
hope to see you there.
See you soon.
Bye, guys.